time for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal. Scooby Dooby Doo.
Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 3, Episode 3 review of the Scooby Doo Show. So last time I continued my 2025 summer special with a review of Season 3, Episode 2 of the Scooby Doo Show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 3, Episode 3 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright, which was released on September 23rd, 1978. The short synopsis of the episode is, the gang go to visit their friend, Professor Kruger, who is working at the North Pole. However, they arrive only to discover that he's disappeared. It turns out, a fur-covered dinosaur is wandering around and may be the reason for Professor Kruger's disappearance. So as per usual, I'll be watching Season 3, Episode 3 of the Scooby Doo Show on the Scooby Doo Wario, the complete series box set. This box set has both seasons of Scooby Doo Wario, as well as the third season of the Scooby Doo Show. Like I mentioned in my previous videos, the reason that the third season of the Scooby Doo Show is on the Scooby Doo Wario box set is because Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers like to market this third season and falsely advertise it as a fake third season to Scooby Doo Wario. But as I said before, there is no third season to Scooby Doo Wario. This is the third season to this show, the Scooby Doo Show. Scooby Doo Wario only had 2 seasons, this one had 3. Now, as far as this episode's reception is concerned, I think most fans like this episode, or at least consider it average. I'm not too sure. I haven't heard much talk about the Scooby Doo Show, like I said, in the Scooby Doo community. But I think this is a liked episode, at least from what I remember and what I hear. And at the very least, I think it's considered average or somewhat good. But there's really only one way to find out whether I consider this to be a good, bad, or average episode. So let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of the Scooby Doo Show. The episode begins with the gang traveling to the North Pole to visit their friend Professor Kruger. When they arrive, they ski down to the Eskimo village where Professor Kruger lives. At the village, the gang find almost all the igloos have been smashed into pieces, and Professor Kruger is missing. What's weird about this is that Velma says the line something to the effect of, oh, these igloos are smashed to pieces. And Daphne says, yeah, as if a giant monster had stepped on them. But they come out, like, when Velma says the line, Daphne's voice comes out, Daphne's speaking them, even though their backs are towards us. And when Daphne's lines are spoken and her voice comes out, Velma is shown speaking. So despite the animators having both of those characters facing, having their backs to us, I could still tell that Velma's mouth was moving when Daphne was saying something, and Daphne's mouth was moving when Velma was saying something. So that was a bit odd. They split up to look for clues, where Scooby discovers a huge paw print in the snow. Chief Manook, chief of the village, arrives and informs them that a snow beast captured the professor. According to legends, the beast, who measures about 50 feet tall, arrived after the village was built on secret lands. The gang heads to Professor Kruger's hut, where they meet his assistant, Jean-Baptiste. He leaves in a hurry before the snow beast returns. I should also mention that there's another animation error where Shaggy's gloves constantly keep being, it constantly shows Shaggy with and without gloves. It keeps flickering on and off. It's almost like the animators, I don't know what was going on with the animators, but it was so distracting when Shaggy was getting ready to leave, and Velma says there's a mystery to solve. His gloves kept flickering in and out, and it was weird. I don't know what it was with the animation in this episode and, the dubbing, but it was a bit shaky in this episode, I could tell. The only clue found in the hut was a drawing of 3 totem poles discovered by Velma. The snow beast then arrives and chases the gang before capturing Chief Manook. Using a dog sled, the gang follows the beast and finds 3 huge totem poles. It is there that they discover more clues: black snow and a thumping sound coming from inside the totem poles that sounds like a heartbeat. The beast arrives again and chases the gang some more. After they escape, they follow his tracks into a nearby ice cave. They find 2 tunnels and split up and look for more clues. At the end of Fred, Daphne, and Velma's tunnel, they discover a huge submarine and more of the strange black snow. Shaggy and Scooby are less fortunate though, and are only chased by the snow beast, which is probably my favorite scene of the episode. It's a good chase scene, and we get a funny gag of Shaggy and Scooby pretending to be the snow beast's dentist.
So far, so good, Scoob. Jump for your life! Right, quick, Scooby, do something! Oh boy, that ought to hold him. Well, what kept you, Mr. Beast? Come down here, please, so we can check those pearly whites of yours.
Why? Look.
Like, not bad for a snow beast your age, but they do need cleaning. Toothbrush,
Toothbrush.
toothpaste.
Toothpaste.
See you in about 6 months for a checkup.
Fred, Velma, and Daphne follow a flight of stairs and find Professor Kruger and Chief Manook locked up. Realizing what is going on, the gang devises a trap to capture the beast. Scooby lures him into a patch of ice where the snow beast slips and crashes into a totem pole where he falls apart, as well as the totem pole itself. It turns out the snow beast was a huge robot programmed by Jean-Baptiste. The totem poles were oil derricks, which explained the black snow. He used the submarine to smuggle oil out of the country. Scooby-Doo yanks his tail that is caught by a walrus, causing him to slide across the ice, colliding onto the icebergs, and when he comes to a stop, he receives a kiss from the female husky dog he's smitten with for the entire episode. And the episode ends with him melting into the ice. I'm going to give Season 3, Episode 3 of the Scooby Doo Show 3 stars out of 5. Yeah, this was another average episode. It was right down the middle. Pretty forgettable average episode. Quite disappointing. It didn't quite live up to the expectations I had hoped. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't good either. It was really right down the middle. There was a fair amount of positives and a fair amount of negatives. I really could start with either one because honestly, this episode has, I don't really fall on either side of the fence. I'm just right down the middle, and I just think, it's fine. It has some good and bad in it, but it's definitely one of those forgettable average episodes where it's like, yeah, it's okay, but it's unlikely I'm going to go back to it and watch it again, which is a shame, because I thought I liked this episode, but it definitely didn't live up to my expectations. So I really could start with either one, but I'll start off with the positives of the episode first and what I did like about the episode before I get into my negatives for the episode and what I really didn't like about the episode. So starting with the positives, my first one is I think Fred was a good leader in this episode. Yeah, he fulfilled his basic role. He told everyone where they needed to go, what to do next. He didn't really create a cool trap in this episode. Fred pretty much just came up with something on the fly. Like, it was just, he just used the environment to his advantage, the ice. So he didn't really create any cool trap in this episode. He didn't really piece together the clues. He did, however, I feel, fulfill his basic role as a leader. So I felt like Fred overall was decent in this episode. Then we have Velma. Velma also helped fulfill her basic role in this episode. She helped piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. I think she even found all the clues of the episode, like the submarine and the black snow. Shaggy and Scooby, I did find the totem pole with the thumping sound in it, but overall, I mean, Velma really found most of the clues. It felt like she was piecing things together. She overall fulfilled her basic role of helping to piece together the clues to help solve the mystery and found a few of the clues. So I felt overall Velma was decent in this episode. Not amazing, but she fulfilled a basic role in this episode. And lastly, we have Scooby. Scooby was his usual funny, cowardly self. I don't think he was too humorous in this episode. He had a little bit of humor. He had a couple moments here and there of humor. He was mostly cowardly, and he definitely got the brunt of the Snow Beast's chase scenes. Like, it definitely felt like the Snow Beast was targeting Scooby the most out of the entirety of the gang. So I did really feel bad for Scooby, and he did help capture the Snow Beast at the end. So I feel overall Scooby helped fulfill his basic role in this episode, despite not being his strongest outing. And he did help capture the villain of the episode. So yeah, I was happy with Scooby in this episode. Not one of his more finer outings, but I felt overall he fulfilled his basic role and he helped capture the villain at the end. So he was at least decent enough. Next up, we have the villain of the episode, who I thought was fantastic. I really loved the villain of this episode. So the main villain of the episode was, of course, the Snow Beast. The Snow Beast was great. He was actually really scary and really threatening, mainly due to his big size. Giant monsters in Scooby-Doo tend to create fear easily because their size is quite intimidating. Now, obviously, there could be exceptions here or there where a big monster may not work, but for a majority of the time, a big monster is usually going to be good because their size automatically makes them threatening and imposing because they're already way bigger than the gang and taller than them. So the Snow Beast could honestly pick them up and bite them take them out with one bite, or he could crush them to death with his hands. Like, the Snow Beast is huge. And I also like the design of the Snow Beast. I like the idea of a snowy dinosaur. Like, that's not really something you see when it comes to dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are usually seen in more warm settings, and we don't really see snowy type of dinosaurs. So to see like a snowy T-Rex kind of dinosaur is really cool. And the Snow Beast is naturally very intimidating. He has a very frightening and scary face. He's got these really big jagged teeth, and he's huge. Like, every time the Snow Beast was on, I was genuinely scared and threatened, and I did fear for the gang's safety, which added to the atmosphere of the episode. But I felt overall, like, anytime the Snow Beast appeared, like, it was fantastic. Like, if the Snow Beast was chasing after me, I'd be scared shitless, because this giant snowy dinosaur is chasing after me, and he could easily kill me with one bite or one crush of his foot. So, yeah, naturally, a big monster, most of the time, is going to do it, especially with a big dinosaur monster, because naturally they have an intimidating posture and face and size, and they have these jagged, crooked teeth. Like, they're very imposing and very threatening. Naturally, any monster that is bigger than the gangs and bigger than a normal human is going to be very scary. So yeah, the Snow Beast was definitely the highlight of the episode. He's definitely a really good villain in the Scooby Doo show. He's one of the better villains. Love his design. Mainly, I love the big size of it. Love the creativity of a snowy dinosaur. It makes it, stand out quite well. Because the last type of villain you're expecting in the North Pole and a snowy setting is a snowy dinosaur. That's the last thing I would expect. But that's what they did, and I very much like the idea. So yeah, villain, 10 out of 10. Really good. Amazing. I found the clues to the episode to be good as well. So the main clues to the episode, I would say, is the totem poles drawing that Velma finds in Professor Kruger's office. The three, the three totem poles themselves with the thumping sound inside of them, like they have a heartbeat, and the black snow, and maybe as well as the submarine. The reason these clues are good in my eyes is because they help point towards the motive of the episode, which is good. It doesn't narrow down the list of suspects, but it most certainly does help point towards the motive, especially the black snow. Once you see the black snow, that gives a pretty good idea of what the motive could be. So the clues fulfilled their basic role. Not really amazing clues, but they did what they needed to, and they helped point towards the motive of the episode. So I felt overall the clues were well executed in this episode. I found the atmosphere of the episode to be really good as well. So I did feel tension and suspense and creepiness and eeriness. I did fear for the gang's safety, mainly because the Snow Beast was a very scary and threatening villain. So he could crush them with one foot or with just one bite of his teeth. So naturally, yes, I do fear for the gang's safety. And I was on the edge of my seat, not wondering what was going to happen next, but I was on the edge of my seat in anticipation for when the Snow Beast was going to show up next. Whenever the Snow Beast would show up, I'd be like, when is the Snow Beast going to come back? When is he going to make himself known? Mainly because, I'm waiting for it, because he's scary, he's threatening, he's getting me on edge. And of course, it's creepy and eerie, mainly due to the villain, again, the Snow Beast. He makes it very creepy and eerie. But also the setting as well. The setting adds to the creepy, eerie vibes. It's dark and snowy out. It's very desolate, snowy, this desolate, snowy setting really adds to the atmosphere of the episode. So mainly a lot of it comes from the villain, but definitely the setting of the episode with its desolate, isolated, snowy nature, really adds to it in a way. So yeah, the atmosphere was great. I felt a majority of things. I felt tension and suspense. I was on the edge of my seat, wondering where the Snow Beast was. I was fearing for the gang's safety. I was scared of, and intimidated by the Snow Beast himself as a villain, and found him very creepy and eerie. But I also found the snowy, desolate nature of the setting to be very creepy and eerie as well. And add the dark night to it. It just, it automatically really makes it such a good vibe for this episode. And my final positive is I found the setting of the episode to be good as well. So the main setting of the episode was, of course, the North Pole. The North Pole is a pretty good setting. It's basically... It's mainly due to the fact that it's very isolated and desolate and has snow for thousands of miles. It's dark out for the majority of the episode, and it only becomes sunny out. It has any sort of light towards the end when the villain is captured. So for the majority of the episode, the setting is dark. It's constantly snowing. There's snow for miles. You can't see anything. And normally I wouldn't like a setting that's just a bunch of desolate land. You guys know, I don't really like those settings where it's just a bunch of woods or a bunch of Rocky Mountains or a desert type of setting. But I like the idea of a snowy, desolate setting like the North Pole, because I just think, I don't know if it's because it's hot out now and because of the time of year, or because I'm just a winter person myself and I like the winter atmosphere. But it just adds to the vibe of the episode. This is a really good episode to watch in the winter, because this setting really provides that comfy, snowy, that comfy nature for when you're in when it's snowing out and you want to put something on and getting yourself comfy and having hot chocolate or something like that, or having something to eat. This is that kind of episode. The setting just works for me. And yeah, normally I wouldn't like these vast nothingness types of settings, but with snow I like it because it just it adds to the villain, but it also just it's visually appealing is what I'll say. It's visually appealing to me, and I very much like the snowy, desolate, isolated nature of the setting. The fact that you have nowhere to go. It's snow for 1,000 miles. You can't see shit. It's dark out. There's this giant dinosaur on the loose. This giant snowy dinosaur that's, destroying villages, capturing humans. So yeah, I do like the North Pole as a setting. And I felt it was well executed as a main setting for the episode. But that's all I got for positives for the episode. So let's get on to the negatives of the episode and what I really didn't like about the episode. So starting with the negatives, my first one is I think Daphne and Shaggy were weak in this episode. Daphne didn't really do anything in this episode. She didn't really stand out in any way. Wasn't a leader. Didn't piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. Didn't find any of the clues. Wasn't funny or cowardly. Shaggy was very disappointing. I was actually quite disappointed that this was not a good Shaggy episode. And I tried to see, if Shaggy was good in any way, but I don't feel he really fulfilled his basic role. Was he a bit funny and cowardly in this episode? Not really. I mean, he wasn't too humorous in this episode. He didn't have a lot of humor, besides maybe that one gag with Scooby where they pretend to be the dentist. And he wasn't too cowardly. Like, he had his moments, but I think mainly because the Snow Beast was going after Scooby the majority of the episode and not really after Shaggy. It didn't really seem like Shaggy was that cowardly in this episode either. It just felt like Shaggy didn't really do as much as he normally would. He didn't have the good humor in this episode, and he wasn't too cowardly in this episode. And I felt like Scooby overall had more to do than Shaggy, and I really hate that because Shaggy's my favorite character of the gang, so to have an episode where he isn't up to par really sucks. But yeah, I have to say it, Daphne and Shaggy just didn't do it for me in this episode. They were not used well, and they were very weak in this episode. Outside of costume, I found Jean-Pierre Baptiste to be very uninteresting. So we don't really know much about him other than he's the assistant to Professor Kruger, and he doesn't really make much of an impression. All he does when is that one scene outside of costume is warn the gang. Like when they go to Professor Kruger's office and knock on the door, he's there, and all he does is warn the gang and leave. He doesn't explain why. In fact, Chief Manook explains the legend of the Snow Beast better and more than Jean-Pierre Baptiste does. Jean-Pierre Baptiste doesn't really do anything. All we know is that he's the assistant to Professor Kruger, but we don't really know much about his character, and he doesn't really do much to stand out anyway. He doesn't have much in the way of characteristics, and he doesn't really tell the legend of the Snow Beast or anything. Really, Chief Manook does that. So, yeah, I wasn't interested in Jean-Pierre Baptiste. Very boring, uninteresting character outside of costume. There was a lack of suspects in the episode, so you only had one suspect in the episode, and that was Jean-Pierre Baptiste. I don't consider Chief Manook to be a suspect. He could have potentially been a suspect, but the problem was that he was kidnapped way too early on in the episode, so he was immediately ruled out, and Professor Kruger was kidnapped in the beginning of the episode too, so he's not a potential suspect either. So really, Jean-Pierre Baptiste was naturally the only suspect of the episode and was the obvious choice of who it could be. Had they not kidnapped Chief Manook and had he maybe been around for most of the episode, he could have been considered a suspect, and we could have had a good amount of suspects. It could have been a 50-50 of, is it Chief Manook or is it Jean-Pierre Baptiste? But instead, they kidnapped him early on, so he's immediately kicked out as a suspect. So yeah, there's only one suspect in the episode. They definitely needed way more in the suspect department. At the very least, they needed two, and they potentially had one. The problem was that they just had Chief Manook captured way too early on. They really shouldn't have done that. I think they should have just kept him there for the majority of the episode and had him kidnapped at the end or something. Or not be kidnapped at all and be a potential suspect for the episode, which would have been better. But him being kidnapped immediately eliminated him as a suspect. So, yeah, only one suspect. Definitely needed way more than that. I found the motive of the episode to be very weak, in all honesty, and a bit repetitive as well. So, the main motive for Jean-Pierre Baptiste is that he basically wanted to scare everyone away from his oil smuggling operation. He was stealing oil and smuggling it out of the country. Now, this is quite familiar to the Minor 49er scheme, but not nearly to an interesting degree like that episode was. Whereas the Minor 49er one was the first instance of that and was very interesting and something new and fresh because it was the beginning of the franchise. This is like the second time around they use an oil motive, and it's not really interesting because it's a smuggling motive, and we've kind of had, a smuggling motive, has been kind of used a lot lately, and it's getting a little bit repetitive at this point, and they definitely need to come up with something a little bit more unique than this, and I think it's just not, it doesn't have enough layers to it to be considered as interesting as the Minor 49er oil operation. I felt like Hank had a way more interesting, layers to his motive. I don't know if that's because it was early on in the franchise, so it was something new and fresh, or if the layers to it just interested me more. But I feel like this episode dropped the ball when it came to the oil smuggling motive. It's just not really executed in a good fashion. It's not really executed that well. It just feels way too repetitive of the minor 49er scheme, and it doesn't do enough to distinguish itself from that scheme, and just feels very boring and weak and uninteresting. It's a bland, boring money motive and smuggling motive, and it's getting a bit tiresome with these smuggling motives, and they definitely need to add some more variety to them if they're going to keep using these smuggling motives. Because like I said, I'm all for repeating motives. I know it's going to happen. You know, they're going to run out of ideas eventually. So I'm not upset that they're reusing motives. I just wish they would add layers to it to make it somewhat unique. You know, add something new to the dynamic that makes it interesting. Add something to the scheme that makes it interesting. Nothing about this scheme made it interesting. It was very boring and bland and a bit repetitive. So yeah, I wasn't interested in the motive. Didn't find it that great. Way too similar and way too familiar to the minor 49er scheme. And hell, even the first Harlem Globetrotters episode as well. And it's just as bad as that one was. And my final negative is I found there to be really no mystery in this episode. There was no mystery to speak of in this episode. So the gang really just are looking for Professor Kruger. I don't really see there's no real questions I'm asking. There's no real, like, what's going on with this, what's going on with that. You could maybe argue there's questions about what happened to Professor Kruger and Chief Manook, but I feel like even if we're going to go there, the answers we get are very unsatisfying with the motive and everything, so I don't really think there really is much of a mystery. I think the gang are just looking for their friend and just being good Samaritans because they're friends with Professor Kruger, they're worried about his safety, so they go out and look for it, and they just see something suspicious and look into it. There's not really much of a mystery here. I'm not really questioning anything. There's nothing I really want answers to. I don't really sense a mystery here. So, yeah, there really wasn't a mystery to speak of. It was just a gang following some breadcrumbs and a trail to find Professor Kruger and find out what happened to him and if he's safe and alive and okay, as well as Chief Manook. But overall, to me, there isn't a mystery in this episode. I'm not asking anything in the episode. There's no questions I have, and there's none that get answered either. So, yeah, no mystery in this episode whatsoever. Overall, guys, I would personally not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers to the show. It's just a very forgettable and average episode. While it's decent and in the middle, it's not a very amazing episode. It's not terrible, but it's just very forgettable and just not one of the better episodes of Season 3 and of the Scooby Doo Show. It's just a very bland and forgettable middle-of-the-road episode, and it's a shame because there's definitely great elements to it. And I think it's mainly saved by the villain of the episode, the atmosphere, and the setting. If it didn't have those, this would easily be one of the worst episodes of Season 3 and one of the worst episodes of the entire show as a whole. But it's mainly saved by its villain, atmosphere, and setting. Those were its strongest aspects. Everything else was just either decent or terrible. And it just was not one of the better episodes. It's quite disappointing and a shame because I was really hoping for a good episode, and I thought this was going to be a good episode, but it just didn't live up to what I expected, and it was definitely, a bummer. So yeah, not really one of the episodes I would personally go back to. It's not one of the worst in the series, not that terrible. There's definitely episodes that I would not watch over this. Like this episode I could watch more than certain other bad episodes, but there's definitely episodes that are out there that are way more deserving and better for your time. I'd say the only occasion this episode really deserves any sort of rewatch is maybe like a winter type of setting. This is like the Laurel and Hardy episode. This is like a kind of comfy winter episode. But it's not as good as that one. So if you're looking for a comfy winter episode, this could be up your alley. just like the 10,000 Volt Ghost episode, as well as the Laurel and Hardy episode. Although I probably would go to the Laurel Hardy episode as well as the 10,000 Volt Ghost episode first before I would go to this one. But if you want, a collection of, episodes to watch on a snowy night and want to get comfortable during the winter time, this is definitely one you could put into that category and watch during the winter time on a comfortable snowy night. Other than that, I see no reason to really give it a rewatch whatsoever. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it like you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? Do you think I'm being a bit too harsh on it? Are there things that you see that I don't see? Do you think it's a really good episode and one of the better episodes of the series? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested in that as well. Do you think this is worse than what I make it out to be? Are there more problems with it that you see that I don't see? Is this one of the worst episodes of the series? Or are you somewhere in the middle like me where you think it's okay, it's average and decent, but it's a bit forgettable and it's not really good or bad. It's just right down the middle. It's fine. I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content, obviously I'll have more Scooby Doo reviews on the way. This is a Scooby-focused channel. We cover all things ranging from TV shows, films, video games, books, you name it. We do all things Scooby on this channel. So if you're a diehard Scooby Doo fan, a newcomer to the Scooby Doo franchise, whatever walk of life you are with Scooby Doo, if you love the Mystery Inc. gang and you want to taste, want a taste of them, and if you're a newcomer or if you're a diehard fan and want to see them get the recognition and love they deserve, and join in on the discussion with me on individual episodes and movies and video games and books, then come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby Doo content. In my next video, I will continue my 2025 summer special with a review of Season 3, Episode 4 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled To Switch a Witch. I actually haven't seen this episode in a little while, but I do remember this is a New England themed episode and it takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. So I'm actually a bit excited for this episode, as even though I haven't seen this in quite a while, I am a New Englander and I do love New England themed episodes. So I am very excited if it'll do a good job of representing the New England area and the Salem, Massachusetts area. So maybe we'll see if this can, live up to the expectations I hold for it. I don't have too high of expectations because I haven't seen it in a while. But my expectations are above average. I'm decently curious, and I'm definitely looking forward to see how they tackle the Salem, Massachusetts area. And as a New Englander, I'm very excited to see another New England-themed episode. So, if you want to know my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 4, To Switch a Witch, then come join me next time. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
We got it all together for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal.